And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. Of course, our final week of shows for 2023, finishing up today and tomorrow. And looking forward to that last little 2.5 week break and coming back as of January 9th to resume shows here again, powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com. You can find all the shows there archived and at hightidecountry.net, our station up in Oklahoma City, and our new stations out in New Mexico and up into Colorado and the ski town of Taos, KKTC. 99.9 True Country. You can also listen via the LMNOC streaming app out there, the broadcast company that owns those very six stations, including KKTC. And pleased to welcome in a guy that we play a lot on True Country out there. In fact, we played some songs last week and this week. And like I said, pushing the interview out there too for as many listeners. The new album, Billboards and Brake Lights. Ray Scott here back to the program. Ray, happy holidays. How you doing?
Doing great, man. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Just like I said, ups and downs. This thing with peaks and valleys in life we all go through, no doubt about it too. But pushing
Yeah.
forward, and the holidays are here, chance to relax and have some time with family. I was going to start kind of right there too before we get into the album and talk about a lot of the great songs. Your plans for the holidays and the Scott household. What's on the agenda?
Well, my wife's family lives here in Tennessee. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
probably 15 minutes away. So that's one thing we'll do, obviously, and we're glad to have them close for sure. My folks, or the remainder of my family, is back in North Carolina, and so we'll take off. I think Christmas Eve maybe, and go and spend a couple of days there. I actually rented a little Airbnb on the lake, and so we'll have somewhere to take the dogs, man. These dogs, man, they pretty much make everything a pain in the butt, but you know,
I got
but
two
we
of the
love them,
brother.
man. These are our children, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's. I got two of the furry ones, and of course, a daughter to my name too as well. So those furry ones, trying to get them acclimated to what's going on, and of course, know we're going to be gone for a long vacation. Put enough food and water outside, keeping them busy, running in a big backyard. That's all you can ask for too, as well too. I tell you, Ray, this industry is very healthy now. You guys have been a part of this. You've been doing this for a long time. This thing called music, and it just seems every day I wake up, there's some fresh new artist out there, new great songwriter. I can't really maybe take back to when you first started, and even '90s country, what I grew up on, which is really your sound, including all your records you put out, but especially for Billboards and Brake Lights. I can't recall a time, maybe since that '90s country or when you first started putting out albums, that the industry's been this healthy.
You know, yeah, it's. I mean, I'll tell you, it's changed a lot. You know, I mean, I think the obviously the streaming services, satellite radio, and a lot of different things out there have contributed to more, maybe diversity as far as the artists and music go. I think if we were all, limited to what's on mainstream radio, it'd be a different story. But so I think it's aided in the health of the industry in general. It's just allowing, access of, to so many people out there in all these different formats. What I've done, I mean, my type of music, or my kind of music, if you will, has been uh, it's a little more throwback, some of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it does have some things in common with some of the '90s country. '90s country is what ultimately led me to move to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up on the stuff that came before it as well. So I'm probably as influenced, if not more so, by '70s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As I am '90s stuff, because that's when I spent my formative years, man. Back when I was still peeling diapers off of myself, and growing up with an old man that sung all that stuff that was coming out at those current times. It was a different way to do it too, a different way to experience it. So, I'm sort of a combination. I'm an odd combination, I think, a little bit, and that's been also very, um, when it comes to the path I've taken, sometimes not by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because I look at things through a different window. I've never tried to I've never tried to really adhere to what was going on at any given moment in the industry. It's just whatever comes out truthful or real. To me, is what I've always done, and thankfully, folks, at least a certain number of folks, have kept up with it and kept me working, man. So.
Which is a good thing, no doubt about it too. Well, let's dive into this new album, Billboards and Brake Lights. This came out November the 10th. and a full-length album there with some great songs in there, great cuts. And I want to talk about the album itself and kind of hit on some of the highlights, probably some songs I know you've been sitting on as far as the catalog in the can for a lot of years. And boy, did you put out a good one with Long Black Cadillac to kind of begin the record, right up there with Ripples and some other good stuff right there. And I know you were excited to get this music out to all your great fans.
I was, man. I mean, I always am. This record, admittedly had a little bit of a more serious tone overall than some of the earlier releases. I've always been kind of known for at least throwing a couple of goofy type songs in the mix, and I did release kind of a goofy album earlier this year that's called Wrong Songs, and it's just a bunch of comedic sort of left of center, whatever kind of stuff. And that was therapeutic for me. My folks both passed away during the first parts of my making this record, Billboards and Brake Lights. I had been in the studio for a couple of weeks, started the record, and lost them right there in the front part of this. And so I got a lot of the work done early on, but it just, I kind of sat there. I knew that it wasn't quite done. I knew there was there was a missing piece or two. And trying to process losing my folks and everything else like that. I just, for whatever reason, kind of had to put it on the back burner a little bit and give it some time and space. When my folks passed away, the morning, my father went 3 weeks after my mom, and the morning of my father's service, I was in a hotel room, and the song came to me called "I'll See You Again." It's the last song on the album, and it's a dedication to them that I wrote it, and then 3 hours later sang it at his service somehow. I think my mom might have had her hand on my shoulder. I don't know, but and my nieces came in and helped me sing it on the spot there. And so I had them come to the studio. So, long story short, I knew once I wrote that song that needed to be part of this project. And so I knew that it was going to be prolonged a little more until we had, we had some more time to get in there, and we recorded that one and a couple others. And I think that that's really what helped me narrow it down and round it out the way I wanted it to be. That finished the job. So, and it took a good year and a half to get that done. So,
yeah, and a good song like a Long Black Cadillac. When you put that out there too, that reminds me of, just like you said, that 70s, 80s, 90s kind of feel there too, with some great lyrics there too. A good dancing song that somebody can kind of get on the floor and get out there two-step too. How did this one originate?
But, it's funny, man. I was walking across the parking lot with my wife a few years back, and we just happened to see an old hearse. Like somebody had taken an old hearse and kind of hopped it up, and it was obviously not being used as a hearse anymore. But but I saw it, and I pointed at it. I said, "You see that thing right there?" I said, "That's how I'm going to leave you." And it was, of course, a Cadillac hearse, and so I thought, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I said, "Okay, well, it's got to be a song." So I went home, and within an hour, probably 2 hours, it was a song, and it's older. It's been kind of sitting on the shelf for a while. I don't. Sometimes there's really not a lot of rhyme or reason for why I choose a certain album, or maybe the album chooses it. I'm not sure, but. So I've had that song for years, as well as a couple others on this record. So, but yeah, I've always liked it. I've had people ask me, "Hey, when are you going to put that on an album?" And so I finally did.
Finally did too, and it came out to be one of the best ones out there. Again, Billboards and Brake Lights from Ray Scott out there across all the digital platforms. We got to take a time out here, pay some bills here on the broadcast. Of course, KKTC True Country 99.9 in Taos, New Mexico, and up into the southern part of Colorado. Out there also at hightidecountry.net, and our friends powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com. You're looking for a drink for the holiday? Do it with our friends at Bangtail Whiskey, bangtail.com, and also select Total Wine and Specs locations out there. A word from our sponsors, including Honky Tonk Texas. We're back more with Ray Scott. We'll talk more about the album too, and of course Rapid Fire coming up here too as well. And Ray's got that guitar, so we got to play a song or two here on the podcast here at the same time too. Quick timeout, more with Ray Scott. It is the Backstage Pass. Stay tuned. Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by thesportsguyspodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by thesportsguyspodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass.
The Bangtail Pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Yeah, smooth and warm finish there too, as well. Just like the voice of Ray Scott back here on the program. Here, the new album is billboards and brake lights across all the digital platforms. Make sure you guys go download. So, hey, so many you can choose from here. I'm going to dive into a few more in just a little bit back here on KKTC True Country and also our friends at HighTideCountry.net. It is the Backstage Pass with Ray Scott. Hey, first up, my friend, Dealer's Choice. What you got for us to perform?
Dealer's Choice. Oh, I'm just holding it. I'm just holding this thing, man. I don't know what you're talking about. This is I got an old one that I'll play that's from this record. There's now I say old one, it's on this album, but it's one that I've had since about 2002, maybe 2003. But this is one that I always thought sounded like it kind of had a Roy Orbison vibe to it. Now me being by myself, I can't play the lead guitar lick along with the other part. But it goes like this. It's
Yep.
She'd always hate be working late. She used to miss me. You wouldn't know it now. Get that look in her eye. We'd be up all night. She used to haunt me. You wouldn't know it now. There was a time she called me baby, when I was all she thought about. My touch used to drive her crazy. She used to love me. You wouldn't know it now. These arms of mine hold her when she cried. She used to need me. You wouldn't know it now. She'd always say there was no way she could live without him. You wouldn't know it now. There was a time she called me baby, when I was all she thought about. My touch used to drive her crazy. She used to love me. You wouldn't know it now. She's out there on that floor again, more in love than she's ever been. She dances by, just turns her head. It's like we never even met. Once upon a time, the whole world was mine. Yeah, I used to have it all. You wouldn't know it now.
I love it right there. You wouldn't know it now. It's off the album there, Billboards and Brake Lights from Ray Scott here on the Backstage Pass, of course, right here being powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com. And of course, out there too, make sure you download and stream the album and also check it out while you're out there, rayscott.com for more information. Of course, tour dates coming up 2024. And how busy? Talk about that for me real quick, because those live shows, back and kind of in full swing now. And it seems like every artist is busy. They're headlining a tour, or at least supporting a supporting act on a tour too as well, opening act, what have you. And for you guys, I'm sure it's going to be more busy pushing this album and more tour dates coming up in 2024. I know you got to be excited to have a little time off and then get right back at it, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. And we're still adding dates to 2024. We've got quite a few yet to add. So, but yeah, I enjoy getting out and I look forward to getting out and promoting this record. We did a little band run last week up through Maryland and had the band playing some of these new things. And it was the first time the full band had done some of these songs. And it was a lot of fun, man. That's one of the things about this thing is that keeps you excited about doing. I realize, people that go back a ways with me, they all love the early stuff. And I love that. And I really appreciate that. Sometimes to keep me excited, though, I have to kind of add some new stuff. And, there's a whole lot to, knowing you're still capable of coming up with new things and keeping it fresh. It's really easy to get bored playing the same things over and over again, and I realize that's not that's not kind of the way the listeners and the the concert goers look at that. They come, they want to hear their favorites, and man, it's a blessing to have that for sure. But with us, I think I speak for band members as well. Folks like playing new stuff. You always come up with something new that that's exciting to play for whatever reason. There's a feeling on it, a feeling about it or groove that makes it fun for everybody, keeps it fresh. So.
Yeah, and you've done that too with a little bit of this title track too, Billboard and Brake Lights too, for this record. Talk to me about this title track, and definitely it's already one of your most popular songs, at least what I've listened to and what I've heard out there too as well, searching socials and streaming and stuff like that too. This one has a pretty awesome message too with it.
Yeah, and it's like when I was growing up, man, and when I was just a music fan, which I'm still a fan. One of my favorite types of songs, even back when I was a kid, was the road songs. The songs about the life of a musician, kind of the traveling gypsy type thing, and I've written a bunch of them. I've had probably about one on just about every album I've put out. That comes from that. So there's definitely that part of my mind that goes there. This one in particular, is just kind of talking about, more or less what you're used to seeing. It's the visual image of just being on the road, at night, maybe kind of a lonely feeling. But the gist of the song is that, it's and doing this for a living, man, especially if you have a wife, if you have a family, you're leaving them a lot, and after a while, some people are either going to be okay with that or they're going to get tired of it. They're going to maybe want something else for themselves. Maybe you're not kind of fulfilling your duty there at home, and that's very understandable. Which is probably why I'm on marriage number 3. But no, so it's just kind of talking about that. Kind of lamenting a little bit on knowing you got somebody great at home, and hoping that they don't get to a point where it's going where it's like, I'm over this. This is not the life I wanted. Kind of thing. So it's got a little bit of that, maybe that slight hint of doubt. And I think all of us guys that get out here and do this, I think we have that. I think we're driven by it. It's a little bit of a disease, But
Yeah.
you know, but that's kind of what it. You know, that's more or less kind of how the song was born. You know, just thinking about my wife and the blessing that I have in her that kind of allows me to do this and go out and do what I love to do to earn a living and still have this wonderful home to come to.
Before I take a time out, I wanted to talk to you. There's a couple of the songs on there. You really tell a good story of really just understanding what that's all about too. One's called Keeper, which I thought was fantastic. They're telling just a great story out there too, for all the things that you go through and how
Oh,
much.
yeah.
I mean, today's my anniversary, right? So I got to go out and do something nice for her tonight. I had to remember that all
Well,
day in
happy
my head
anniversary,
too.
man.
Yeah, she said 13 years. Like I said, and this was and I always told myself, Ray, I'd just do it one time. And so far
Yeah.
this ride's been good for us too. We got a daughter out of it too. We're raising now. She's almost 4. And so it starts to kind of catch up with you too. And I'm feeling these gray hairs right now too. People ask, what are these things right here? I said, no, it's like I said, just wisdom is what you call them right here too. So it's
Hey,
good
dude,
thing.
if it wasn't for something called Just for Men, man, I'd have kids coming up to me telling me what they want for Christmas.
I could be right there in that same category with you right now too. But Keeper's so great off this album. I really love this song and the storytelling behind it. Kind of remind the listeners too. And there's another one called "I Fall in Love with You Again" that really sticks out to me on this album.
Yeah. Well, and that's another one of the songs on there that's an old one. As a matter of fact, man, it's an interesting story with that song. That's not only the oldest song on this album, that's the oldest song on any album I've recorded. Back about, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe a little over 20 years ago, I wrote it. So it's an old one. And at the time, I had a publishing deal in Nashville, the second publisher that I had signed with. I was probably around 30 years old, maybe 28, 29. And, man, I grew up on a real steady diet of some great, like I said, great 70s country, which includes, by and large, a lot of Don Williams stuff. And so, me and my buddy Philip were sitting down one day and just, I had this hook and I was like, man, I think it should go like this. And it had that old throwback feel, like an old Don thing. I think, matter of fact, I had a guy tell me he thought that's something that Don would record. But anyway, so we wrote the song and we turned it into our publisher. And he liked it. He thought it was really good. But he also said, man, this is way too retro sounding. It's too country, which is, in Nashville, man, it's a shame how common a term that is, too country. But not only did he kind of, try to discourage us from wanting to record that song or really do much with it, he also tried to kind of discourage us from writing in that general style too, because it wasn't what radio was playing at the time. It wasn't what everything sounded like. It didn't have the more pop, rocky, in your face mix, even back then. So we kind of put that on a shelf and sort of steered away from doing that type of thing for a while. And last year, I have a digital distribution company I'm with called 1RPM. And there's an old friend of mine that works there. He's one of the A&R people, I think the main A&R guy. And he remembers me playing him that song from way back when. And so he asked me about the song. I hadn't talked to him in years. And he said, man, whatever happened to that song, I Fall in Love with You Again, or whatever? I said, I've still got it somewhere. I said, I've just never recorded it. And he said, man, you ought to take another look at that, man. That's all. I always remember that song whenever I think about you. So I pulled it out and I realized there was one line in the first verse that made it kind of dated. There was a line that said, grab the paper. And I knew that, man, nobody gets the newspaper anymore. That's that's how long ago. I mean, people were still reading the paper back in 99, 2000. But so I went back and I changed one of the lyrics in the first line. And when I say pull the shades up, that is the line that had been grab the paper. But outside of that, man, I went in and recorded with my producer Moose, and man, I just loved it. It just felt like it came out magical. And every time we play it, whether it's acoustic or with the band, it just feels right. And, it just makes me, for years there, I was taking the advice and not going with my gut on a lot of these songs. And, that's a byproduct of being in the Nashville publishing system and, realizing that they don't want you to write certain types of songs. They're trying to jump on the bandwagon of what's happening at the moment. So, so I've been, but I've been independent for quite a while now. And all the time I'm realizing, hey, I run my own business here. I'm my own record label. I can do whatever I want. And so the, just the freedom of being able to go in and record that song and put it out there and to have such a reaction from people, man, it's just been extremely validating and, satisfying. And I put it up there with some of my best ones, to be honest.
It's right up there too. We'll come back and talk about one of the best ones that kind of got it started for me back in 2005. That was the glory days for me back in something called My Kind of Music. We'll come back and talk to Ray about that too as well. And of course, take our final time out. He's got one more to play for us, and then we'll do some rapid fire here on the Backstage Pass, a little series of funny questions. We get to know him more on a personal basis too, as far as food, drink, stuff like that too, and what's coming up for the holidays too as well with the family out there too. You're listening to the Backstage Pass, KKTC 99.9 True Country out of Taos, New Mexico, up into Pueblo, Colorado, and of course our friends at HighTideCountry.net, presented by Honky Tonk Texas and our friends at Bangtail Whiskey and more with Ray Scott here. Final segment coming up too as well, and we'll talk about the final show of 2023 tomorrow after this timeout. Stay tuned. Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass.
The Bangtail Pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
And back here on the show, next to last for 2023. We're done tomorrow, and actually coming up tomorrow on the show, a hit songwriter. He's done it all in the industry. Hit songs such as Matches for Sammy Kershaw, If I Didn't Have You, Randy Travis, and of course Me and You, Kenny Chesney. And he's penned so many, I'd go through the list right here. They could probably list it off the next 10 minutes, but we're not going to do that. Skip Ewing's going to come by here on the Backstage Pass tomorrow. Great songwriter too as well in his own right, and a great artist. New song called Road Dog across all those digital platforms. We'll talk to Skip about that. Back here with Ray Scott, again presented by Bangtail Whiskey and our friends over at Honky Tonk Texas. You're listening to the Backstage Pass again, KKTC True Country 99.9, and of course out there HighTideCountry.net. Billboards and Brake Lights, the newest album from Ray out there too, and check out RayScott.com. What's up next, my friend?
Man, we were talking about I Fall in Love with You again. I think I'll do that one.
All right. Sounds good to me. Here we go.
This guitar's out of tune, man. I wake up, hit the snooze on that old clock, walk to the kitchen, turn on the coffee pot, pull the shades up. Sleepy-eyed, you stumble in, and I fall in love with you again. Shave and shower, out the door 10 minutes late. Hit the highway, give the boss another 8. I come home, you greet me with a kiss as I walk in, and I fall in love with you again. Every day I face the same routine. That's the way I like it. I don't want to change a thing. Each time I think about how my life might have been, I fall in love with you again. Every evening lay our heads to sleep. I pray the Lord your precious love I'll always keep. We hold each other as the moonlight waltzes in. I fall in love with you again. Every day I face the same routine. That's the way I like it. I don't want to change a thing. Each time I think about how my life might have been, I fall in love with you again. Each time I think about how my life might have been, I fall in love with you again.
I love it too. You never know that guitar was out of tune. You just, like I said, you just get, man, beautiful vocals covering it up right there. What a guitar. Second acoustically, I'd fall in love with you again. That's the kind of music right there too. You're like, what? And that expression you talk about, sometimes I've heard that before. What's too country? There's nothing too country out there, especially with the diversity in the business right now too. And I just love songs that, just like you said, three chords and the truth, and things that tell a story out there too. And that kind of song, I see why you wanted to cut that and look at that one again based on the lyrics in that particular song. Back here with Ray Scott on the Backstage Pass, again, Billboards and Brake Lights, the current album out there. Check it out. Make it a stocking stuffer for Christmas. And of course, rayscott.com. Get you some merch while you're at it too. Hey, I remember back in the day, and I say this too because now I'm in my 40s and I look back and I'm like, boy, does it fly. But you come out with this album called My Kind of Music in 2005, I believe it was. And you look back and you're like, man, this is one even today. And I know you touched on it, some, instrumentation and things out there. Some of the band members get tired of playing the same old stuff. But that particular song and Drinking Beer, to me, never get old for those two songs. And I'm sure those have to be two of the fun ones to play out there when you're on the road, right?
Yeah, they are, man. And it's funny, Drinking Beer was a number one song for me over in the UK back in 2014. It was actually the song of the year on one chart. It just, and I tell people when we do this at the shows, it just kind of confirms to me what I've been suspicious of for years, that folks in the UK are just a bunch of drunk ass white people like us. But or not just white people, a lot of people, a lot of different hues. But it's fun, man, because people sing along to it, and My Kind of Music, I end every show with that song, unless there's an encore. But and that last line of the song, I just sort of hand it over to the crowd and say, y'all help me out. And I had to tell that girl to, and they yell it loud and proud every time, man. And it's, so that never gets old, man. It's just a lot of fun. And it's funny, we have a song that did really well called Those Jeans too. And I kind of play that. And then we sort of do a little bit of a switch over, hit it. I forget what the band does there, but we don't stop the song. We just sort of keep it going and go right into My Kind of Music. And as soon as that thing happens, a lot of people just sort of come alive, because there's some that folks that still go back to that. And that was my introduction to people, for whatever reason. But, it's also a song that's very polarizing. It was one that I did get a lot of airplay with at some stations, and there were a lot of them that wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I've kind of been that polarizing type artist ever since. And it's a place that I've gotten pretty comfortable being. It's kind of given me a whole lot of license and a whole lot of rope to hang myself with. And so it's, so it's been cool. When you get introduced to, to listeners by a song like that, I think all bets are off. You can kind of do whatever you want to. Now, not if I were to have been signed to a major label all these years, obviously. But once I left the big label system back in about 2000, and I guess it was 08, maybe 07, 08. Man, I've done exactly what I wanted to do, and so that's, I mean, I don't know if it, like drinking beer, for instance. I don't know if I had a big record deal with a label, who knows if they would have let me record it, because I mean, frankly, unless you got a pretty good special relationship with the head A&R at one of these labels, they're going to put their hands in it to a point to to where you're lucky if you get to do half of what you really want to do on some of these records. So, but yeah, there's a lot of them that are fun. We played one the other night that was a request of the guy that had us in to play. It was an old song called "Everybody's Girlfriend," recorded that, and it's just basically about having a thing for the town whore. I mean, how many how many people do you think are going to put that out on mainstream? So, but,
I love it. No, it's good
freedom
stuff.
is a beautiful thing, man.
It is. Record what you like and what sounds good. And that's what I've always loved about you, is the true, is authenticity when it comes down to it, and just knowing who you are as an artist, expressing that to your fans. And it's like Cody Jinks told me one time, Ray, on the show when I was doing with him, I said, he said, either you like my brand of music or you don't, and if you don't, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
He told me that.
Well, same here, man. I mean, there's always stuff. I do. I mean, I've run across the occasional person who prefers my first album to anything that's come after it. And sometimes that's just the way it is with people. I mean, sometimes something might strike a person at some important, particular time in their life that just, makes a little bit of a deeper impression. And that's all well and good. I mean, I think there's room for all of it. For every guy that has done that, I've had at least another couple of people that tell me that the new album's the best thing I've done yet. So, and I don't really want to rank them necessarily. I just would like to at least think that I'm still coming up with decent stuff. So, it's just, there's really no set path for this, no way to predict what's going to work and what's not. You just throw it all against the wall, essentially, and and then there's a certain amount of them that stick if you're lucky, and then you can make a career out of it. So,
well, you've done that and then some. Successful career, and like I said, stay true to yourself and know what type of artist you want to be. Hey, let's have a little fun. I know the NFL season for me, Ray, is winding down, and I don't have a dog in the fight right now. I say one. Take that back. I got one. Dallas Cowboys, my second favorite team. Of course, my first favorite team is right there. They're not doing too well. Of course, it was not having a quarterback from Arizona Cardinals kind of hurt this entire year. But I will say they got smacked in the face by the Bills this year. And I wanted to get kind of, and maybe you've told me this before in previous shows we've done, football-wise, sports, kind of what are your teams? Who do you pay attention to? Kind of remind the audience a little bit.
Oh, dude, I hate to even admit this. Well, growing up where I did in North Carolina, when I was there, see, I had left the state already to get the hell out of town. I was in California, I think, when we got the Panthers. So I've never really had any real strong bond with the Carolina Panthers. My team growing up was the Redskins. And but back then they had a really good, they had a good history. They had a great record. They had a great coach, great owner. You talk about Joe Gibbs and Jack Kent Cook, and I mean, some really legendary figures. I mean, and I think since Dan Snyder bought that team, and thankfully he doesn't own it anymore, they just really went to hell. And so I just I stopped really following them very closely because I just didn't feel like it was the same team that I grew up with, and it wasn't. So since I've been in Nashville, of course. I jumped on the Titans ship, and and they've shown signs of good, over the years here and there, but obviously got close to the Super Bowl, or got to the Super Bowl once. But otherwise, man, I will tell you this, and this is odd coming from a former Redskins fan. I kind of have a little bit of a secret hope that Dallas pulls it through, because, man, I'll be honest with you. As much as some of their fans have gotten on my nerves over the years, look, Dak Prescott has gotten just an unnecessary amount of bashing, and the he's a great player, and I know everybody accuses him of choking and whatever else, but man, it takes a team. It ain't just about him, and
Sure.
And I would like to see it happen for them, for him, for Jerry too, because I know Jerry he loves this team, man. He wants them to win so badly, to the point where he can't stay out of it enough. But but no, so honestly, man, I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing Dallas do it. I got to be honest, but also, I'm also really happy to see Detroit doing good now too. So, either one of those would be great for me. In reality, I think it'll probably be the 49ers.
No doubt. I'm with you on that too. That bandwagon of it's just not a fan.
So we'll see. Maybe they'll have a bad day maybe they'll have a bad day in the playoffs. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how it goes. I say that's the playoffs. That's what they call it. Like I said, one and done. And like I said, one starts the off season when the other one keeps you to death. And playoffs, no doubt about it. Yeah. Hey, I actually won a fantasy league the other day, so I'm going up against somebody on the other side of the bracket too. I've got to compete against over the next few days too. So that's a fun thing there too, because I know my football. I coached it for a long time, and I love the sport too. But seeing Dallas do it this year, or Detroit, or somebody different other than Kansas City, maybe San Francisco would be just kind of cool. The parity.
I definitely think, and I don't think it's going to be KC. I wouldn't mind seeing Buffalo do it.
That would be another. Yep, that's
because their window is I don't know. They've been saying that for the last 2 years, but I will be honest though, Lamar and the damn Ravens are looking pretty damn strong though, and Miami too. So I don't know. Who knows, man? Who knows?
So it's going to be a fun thing. Like I said, parity in the league is as high as it's ever been, no doubt about it too. Hey, do you remember the first?
Fun to watch.
It'd be fun to watch. You remember the first song you ever sang live on stage, and it could be a cover.
On stage, man. Well, it depends on what on stage means. Now, I had a high school or junior high school chorus show that was like done at the local theater or whatever. Sung some old song called "Soon It's Gonna Rain." It's kind of cheesy, but I think the first. Oh gosh, if you want to count karaoke,
I could do that.
when I was, I think when I was about 17, I did "Dust in the Wind" and like won a contest, which pretty much probably says a whole lot about how terrible everybody else was, more than it does that I was any good.
The fact you remember that too is a feat in itself, no doubt about it too. Favorite holiday dish for Christmas? What do you look forward to eating?
For Christmas? Oh man, and now this is not necessarily the traditional thing, but my brother does a fried seafood feast every Christmas.
Ooh.
And they're in North Carolina. They're about 3 hours from the coast, and he goes down and gets like fresh shrimp and oysters, and he also throws ribeyes on the grill. And it's just a big feast. Now, otherwise, man, my favorite dish it's mostly been Thanksgiving, but over the years we always had oyster dressing, and I love that. That's something I really love. And since my mom's passing, my brothers and his daughters have still been trying to continue the tradition. But that was always something that was popular in my family. And I don't know many other people that had it.
I'd love to try that too one day, no doubt about that. And you remind me of the oysters and a little bit of the steaks. I like that. And some people have called it down here in the South, a little bit of that surf and turf kind of thing right there.
Yeah.
Too, which is good dishes there too. Well, I tell you what, man, appreciate you being here on the program. Again, the album, billboards and brake lights across all the digital platforms out there too, and get you guys a little bit of that merch at rayscott.com too, and go download the album across all those digital platforms. Ray, always a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend. Looking forward to doing it again, hopefully in 2024.
Absolutely, Brandon. I really appreciate you.
Hey, brother, always appreciate you, and I love the time in our discussions, and time just flies by when you and me are on show out there, too, because we can talk music till the cows come home. We're going to do that one more time with one of the best singer-songwriters coming up tomorrow. He's got a new song called Road Dog across all those digital platforms. The great Skip Ewing will be here, too, as well. Ray knows a lot about Skip Ewing.
Tell Skip I said hello, by the way. He was at Acuff Rose. My very first developmental deal was at Acuff Rose, and he was a writer there back when he was having a lot of hits. And a lot of the new folks these days don't realize just what a badass he is. And he is a wonderful, wonderful songwriter. I saw a quick story. I saw him play at a bagel shop in Nashville back in about 1995. And I saw him play, and I thought, man, I got a lot of work to do. And so, you know, so he's an amazing songwriter, one of the best that's ever come down the pike. So,
you know, I think my favorite one he wrote, Ray, was Matches for Sammy Kershaw.
that's amazing. That's a great one too. Little Houses was a good one too.
Yeah, and I believe did he did a couple for Brian White. Rebecca Lynn was one of them, if I remember.
Yep. There's an old one he's got too, The Gospel According to Luke. I don't know if you remember that one.
I did.
Man, he's got you can dig, man. He's got a lot of good stuff.
I'll tell you another just came to mind too, and I checked myself, but I'm pretty sure on this too. A guy by the name of Colin Ray. A lot of people have heard about him in country music. There's one called Love Me that was I believe Skip pinned that one too as well. So it's just crazy. We'll talk about that and then some coming up tomorrow. I'll be sure to tell them you said hello to as well. And again, thanks to our sponsors out there, Honky Tonk Texas, and our friends at Bangtail Whiskey. Get your order in at bangtail.com for the holidays. And of course, out there too, across all the digital platforms out there, Ray's album, billboards, and brake lights too as well. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. One final show for 2023 with Skip Ewing here again, presented by our friends at Bangtail Whiskey and Honky Tonk Texas. Again, thanks to KKTC True Country 99.9 out there too, and via the LMN OC streaming app. You can always listen to country music and Ray's music around the clock on the very streaming app out there too, and our friends at HighTideCountry.net. Tomorrow, Skip Ewing closes us out 2023, and we're back January the 9th with some shows we're already planning for January 2 here on the Backstage Pass, powered by the sportsguyspodcast.com. For all of us here, have a great night, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year coming up. We'll see you tomorrow with Skip Ewing on the Backstage Pass. Until